Yeah, my name is CIECHANOVER. I am a physician by training, a little bit touch in surgery, but not a serious one. And then I decided that I want to understand why diseases start from the very beginning. I must admit it was a very naive thinking that you can discover mechanisms of diseases, but I realized as a physician that the only thing that I really derived from medicine. Then when people typically show in the hospital, it's too late. You know, if they come with a heart attack, it means that the process has been developed for decades. You know, the occlusion of the coronary artery with cholesterol. And then people say, wow, this guy was running marathons and all of a sudden he, you know, collapsed, died of heart attack. No, he developed it for decades. If people develop Parkinson's disease, it takes years until you degenerate the neurons in the brain to the level that you show symptoms. Same for cancer. You know, it starts with one cell that loses control of division until it becomes a tumor that kills the patient. So I was very naive and I said, well, it's too late, except maybe for flu or for light diseases that you can come and go. And I want to understand why. And then I went to do a PhD in biochemistry. And then I realized that all my thinking was wrong, because in the laboratory you are working on a little question that have nothing to do with disease or remotely has something to do with disease. But nevertheless, I fell in love with biochemistry because it's understanding who we are biologically, how this complex machine is working at all. You know, how is it that we take a piece of bread in breakfast in a nice hotel and convert it into movement of a muscle? How is it that, you know, we see and we interpret what we see here and interpret what we hear? So I thought that, nevertheless, I'm not going to discover any drug and any mechanism of disease, but I'm going to understand a little bit life, a little bit, really little bit. And I had an excellent mentor, Professor Hershko, who, I don't know whether he's here, but he typically comes, who also is a physician and that moved to science, so we had kind of common language. And we asked at that time a question that people didn't ask, and that's how proteins are destroyed. Not how they are generated, but how they are destroyed. The whole world at that time, the scientific community, was busy with the genetic code, with the double helix of Watson and Crick, and you know, why we are human beings and not cats. How is it that, and why cats are not human beings. And everybody was busy with construction rather than with destruction. And Avram thought that there are some hints that destruction is also interesting, though people didn't believe in it. They say, oh, we eat the best food in the world, we go to 3 Forks Michelin restaurant, we pay 500 euros, you know, for few seconds of the good food that crosses our mouth, and then it's all destroyed and nothing remains of it. So there is nothing in there. But there were signs that there is still something very interesting there. And I'm adventurist. And at stakes was, of course, leaving medicine, moving to science. You know, I had a family, I had a nice salary, but I went after him, and the rest is history. So proteins are basically, let's start with the biology. We are made of proteins, and I'll give you a few examples. For example, the antibodies that we develop against corona or against any disease are proteins. The red color of the blood is a protein called hemoglobin that carries oxygen that we breathe in the air to the tissues to give them energy, and then take out waste gases like carbon dioxide, which we exhale in the air. The muscles are made of proteins. The body is made of 25,000 different proteins, 25,000, that are playing a symphony. And the symphony is called the Symphony of Life. It's probably the most complicated symphony ever composed. And the interesting thing, it is being played without a conductor. Every protein knows when to go in, when to go out, and so on. So the proteins are players on the stage in the symphony of life. And they are very sensitive. The proteins are chains. They are made of letters, like words. The letters are called amino acid, but they are very long and they are folded. And they're very sensitive. They are sensitive to mutations. They are sensitive to heat. They are sensitive to radioactive radiation, to the sun, and so on. And they get spoiled. They get damaged. And once they get damaged, they cause damage to the body. Diseases are coming up, like cancer, neurodegeneration, and we need to remove them. And that's exactly the process that we discovered. How we remove proteins that are not useful anymore, that are damaged, that if they are not being removed, will cause diseases. So the issue is of, first of all, I think that what we are talking about is the difference between studying in a university and doing research. In the university, or in school, or in kindergarten, you are being fed an already known information. The teacher transmits you what is already in the book. Okay? So it's very important because you need the basis, but it's nothing new. Somebody else did it. But then once you have the base, you ask yourself what is still missing, because knowledge is accumulating. You know, 100 years ago, the books that we studied in the university didn't look like that. They were much thinner. So knowledge is accumulated. So you say, okay, I study medicine, I study science, everything is in the books, we have good teachers, they teach us what other people did, what Newton did, what Darwin did, what Louis Pasteur did, what Watson and Crick did, what they discovered, and then you ask yourself, what is missing? And what is missing, now there is no book. You need to write the book yourself. So this is called the book of research. Then you are going to the laboratory, and based on knowledge, you are adding new knowledge. You are really studying nature, you are studying a process. People did not know how proteins are destroyed. We went to the laboratory, it was not in any book. We couldn't go to the library, we couldn't find anything. We had to generate a new knowledge and add it on top of what is known. And now it's in the books. And now people, younger than I am, have to ask themselves, okay, now we know what they did, now what else is missing? And that's the process of, of research. So this is the difference between studying and researching. In researching, you're doing something that nobody did before. Now, the question is whether what you study is important. You don't know. You never know. It can be important, and it can be not important, so people will not look into it ever. Here, I don't have a recipe. I mean, you have to have your own insight into what is important. And I must admit also you have to be lucky. You have to be with the right people, in the right time, in the right place. Now it's daytime, and you have to have the stars turning in the right direction and shining on you. You need to have luck. I mean, luck is an important element, but being with right people at the right time. And I must admit one thing, I've always been with good people. That's something that I put as a target. My mentor, Professor Hershko, was excellent biochemist. Then it was time to fly away. You want to learn from other people. You don't want to be in one school. You want to go to different schools. So I went to another good school. I went to MIT, to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is, I don't know if the best school in the world, one of the best. And I spent there several years with excellent mentor, with Harvey Lodish. So, mentorship is critically important in your success. So mentorship, good subject, luck, they all pile together to make you successful. Yeah, the issue of novelty and whether what you discover is important and impactful is a very important one. Unlike the old Greek scientist Archimedes, who discovered immediately while going into the bathroom that the crown of the king is faked, in science you don't know. It takes years. What we knew, and I tell you a joke in a minute, not a joke, something humoristic, we knew that it's novel, what we discovered, because we discovered that these proteins that need to be destroyed are marked for their destruction. Another protein binds to them and sends them to the grinder, to the blender. It's like, I hate this metaphor, but you know, when people are being executed, they have the death penalty in Texas, then they get the orange coat, so they put in the death line. So this is, you know, a protein that binds to the protein that needs to be destroyed. The Nobel Committee called the kiss of death. You are kissing the protein to its death. It's going to die. So we knew that it's novel, but we didn't know it's important. We did not discover that it's important. You know, importance is discovered by other people. They started to say, hey, this guy discovered that proteins are destroyed by this mechanism. Maybe my protein that's causing cancer, or maybe the protein that causes Alzheimer, and maybe a protein that causes heart attack or whatever, are also going by that. So gradually, we saw that the little creek, the little water that came from the rock, the drops, became like a river. You know, people join you, and that's the proof that other people join you and say, this is important for this disease, this is important for this protein, this is important for this protein. So we discovered the root. So we discovered something novel. The importance came from other people, and you need the two in order to make it. So I said that I'll tell you something humoristic. So somebody, a scientist, sends a paper to the publication, and the editor writes him back, I'm very happy to tell you that your paper, your findings are both novel and important. However, the novel part is not important, and the important part is not novel. So you didn't do anything. You have to have them both. And that takes time. You can do the first part, but you need the community to join you, and it takes years to build the importance. Well, life changed. You know, let's admit it. You know, it's an important recognition. But I was relatively young when I got it. I was 56, 7. It's relatively young. And it's actually this year is 20 years. So we are in 2024 now. So you're happy one day, you're happy second day, and at the third day, you know what you do? You go back to work. And I decided, I took one important decision. I am not stopping to do science. Science is my life. It's my oxygen. I have now a very active laboratory. We are developing drug for cancer. We are still studying the system, different aspects related to diseases. Science is still the central highway, but I feel that I have some public obligations in education of the young generation, inspiration, and exciting them about science. And I always tell them that it's not a miracle. I'm coming from a small country. And actually we are in war now. Israel is now in war. And we always been in war, one way or another. But even in a small country, in a small place, you can make it. There is no magic. It's up to you. And when I talk to young people, I tell them the issue is not the Nobel Prize. I never dreamt of a Nobel Prize. You must be crazy to think that you'll get a Nobel Prize. But I did dream on impact. I did want to leave an impact behind. Something that will be left behind, not that, you know, when I die, I die. You know, I'm not sitting on a balcony and look what's going on. But you really want to leave something meaningful for people. And I think that that's the purpose of life. My father told me that, you know, when I was a kid, And at that time I didn't understand at all what he's talking to me. I thought he's crazy. He said, you have no permission to walk in the world for 80 years. You know, he thought maybe I live 80 years, doesn't matter. 70 years, 90 years. And leave no dent behind you. Just pass away. You have no right to do it. It will be a waste of life. He said, what can I do? I was a kid. What does he talk to me? I could hardly read and write. I was in elementary school. What does it mean to, what I am in Columbus? I am Newton? I am what? What does he want me to do? To discover a new continent? To what? He probably knew what he's talking about. Not that he thought that I'm going to get a Nobel Prize, but he wanted me to think all my life on something important. Not to waste time, which is a very important commodity. Not to let it go. You know, each generation is influenced. You know, when I grew up, there was no cell phone, there was no television, there was no telephone. We didn't have a telephone at home. We communicated by letters. You know, we wrote by hand, there were no computers, no printers. We took a stamp, we put the glue on it, we put it on the envelope and we sent it. It took 2 weeks. And then somebody answered you. When you got the answer, you forgot what you wrote initially. Communication changed a lot. The way we talk to one another. But I think that at the end of the day, they are very good people. You see that technology, you know, all this is technology. Technology is coming from something. Where it's coming from? Talented people. Universities, cell phone, satellites, communication, medicine. Cancer has changed dramatically. Heart diseases. You know, we are moving. We are moving. Maybe not all people contribute to it, but they are excellent people. They are different, okay. So instead of maybe reading a book, they read Wikipedia. But it's okay, it's a different culture. It's not, and I am in a medical school, and we get the best. We really have the best people. And maybe I'm lucky to be surrounded by very talented people in my university who are really still excited about science, about discovery, about improving the world, and so on. I don't think that this generation is different in principle. It's not bad, it's not worse, and it's not better. I think it's a good generation that has different culture. I'm not disappointed at all. Spain has very good islands of science. I think that the purpose of a country is not to get a Nobel Prize. The purpose of a country is to improve the life of its people by providing good education, by providing good health services, by providing security, defense, and so on. Spain has a very good, you know, Barcelona is a very stronghold, very strong stronghold. Valencia, Madrid has CNIO, you know, the Oncology Institute. What is CNIO? Centro Nacional de Investigación Oncológica. So, very good science, very good science. Spain is part of the EU, they have very good scientists and they contribute to the community. People are a little bit afraid of science. They think that scientists might clone other people and maybe some new Nazi military will come out of a cave or whatever. I think that people have to understand that science is everything around them. The fact that they go to the pharmacy and buy a drug, it's science. You know, they need to know the way of the drug from the idea all the way to the pharmacy. They think the drug, when you ask them people about drugs, they say, oh, we go to the pharmacy. What do they think, that the pharmacist is making the drugs? Some scientist had an idea, you know, it took clinical trials, experiments on animals, billions of dollars, years to come, and so on. They have to understand that the cameras are science, that the telephone are science, that the airplanes are science. Yesterday I landed in Valencia it was, well, I landed actually in Amsterdam initially. It was completely cloudy. We didn't see the ground until we were on the ground. Blind landing. What is it? Science? Science, of course. I'm sure the pilots didn't see a meter before their nose. It's all science. Communication, telephones, television, drugs, satellites. It's all materials. You know, the clothing are half plastic. People don't like it, but it's you know, it's polyester and this. It's all science. Science is, people don't realize, but we are drowning in an ocean of science that is all made by good engineers and scientists and so on and so forth. So I think not only that, but science is the most effective engine of economy. You know, Israel moved from agriculture, which is labor intensive, you know, to work in the field, to irrigate, to pick up olives or I don't know, or apples. It's still nice to do, but it's labor intensive and low income. While one engineer sitting in IBM or in another company and making a chip that is now, you know, can run AI and quantum computing, can bring billions of dollars to the country. So it's the engine, it's the modern engine of economy. The modern engine of economy, even for agriculture. You know, AI developing new drugs, developing new strains that will be resistant to insects, to drought, to whatever. I mean, science is the #1 economic engine. So it's not only that it's everything around us is science, but the country is living on, modern countries are living on science. Well, I think, you know, there is a big debate. Let's you know, the idea is, what are prizes? Let's start to understand what are prizes. Prizes are recognition of society in achievements, okay, in the case of science. Is it important? I think it is important. Why it's important? It's a public tool to show to the public, first of all, to highlight achievements. So people realize what we talk. People don't understand. They go to the store and they buy a telephone, but they don't realize that it's science. So to highlight achievements, to highlight the people behind the achievements, and to excite young generation to go into it, to continue, to be the next generation. Therefore, I think it's important. The criticism on prizes come from, because from time to time they become political. I mean, I don't mean political in the sense of the government, but friends are giving prizes to friends, and so on and so forth. But once science is pure, and the decisions are pure, based only on achievements, then I think it's very important. Now let's come to the Premio Rei Jaume prize. I think that the committee is doing, the foundation is doing a great job. Because the committees are mixed. I have nothing to do with Spanish science. And I'm chairing a committee. This year it's on medical devices and public health. The committee is made of about 20 people. Some of them are Nobel Prizes, some of them are foreign scientists, some of them are Spanish. We discuss. Nobody has, you know, nobody can influence me, tell me for whom to vote. At the end of the day, we vote for the best scientists. Because the committee is so mixed that there is no way you can divert them. So, and we do it very seriously. I'm chairing the committee, so we take the long list. We decide tomorrow to shortlist it. So I tell everybody, write your 6 favorites. I don't know what you are writing. We take the 6 that accumulated the maximum amount of votes, and we discuss them in detail. And at the end, we vote. And we try to convince one another, but, you know, at the end there is this, you know, list of achievements. So I think that this prize managed to highlight the best scientists in Spain, and I hope that it had affected and inspired and excited young people to go into different areas of science. You know, it's in mathematics, in engineering, in medicine, in sustainability, in all areas that what science is made of. And in that sense, I think it's an excellent prize. And it's local, it's Spanish. Spain is a superpower in science. And it picks up the best people there in the most objective manner. I hate to say we'll follow my steps, because I don't think that I leave big steps behind. But I think that science is something exciting. And the reason that it's exciting is that it's indifferent. We cannot rape it. We cannot tell science what to do. You know, we cannot tell the plants to be blue. They are green, and there is a good reason why they are green, because of chlorophyll that is making photosynthesis. Diseases, you know, if you invent a drug, you cannot say that you cured cancer, because people will take your drug and will try it in Buenos Aires, in Valencia, in Tokyo, and in Melbourne, Australia, and they will see for themselves whether the drug is working or not working. So science is very objective. Science doesn't know about us. It's indifferent to us. We are using science for our benefit, but we cannot tell science what to do and where to go and how to behave. And therefore, because it's indifferent, it's also objective. And it's subject to judgment by people that I don't know even. You know, if I wrote a paper, somebody else in some place will repeat it. The fact that the system that we discovered, we became famous, it's not because I went to the square and tried to convince people that it's important. They tried it themselves, and it did work for them. So it's very objective, and I think that that's the beauty. There are very few things that are objective nowadays. Everybody wants, you know, the social networks, everybody tries to influence. Even elections, you know, are not free from influence. And science is an outside player, a complete outside player. And in that sense, it's beautiful. And I hope that it will convince people that the beauty of science is attractive and, more important even, beneficial to improve human life.